Caviar, which is known as the food of the gods, is still on many menus, but be careful of the price. It is one of the most expensive foods in the world, selling for up to $35,000 for every kilo. These eggs can only come from sturgeon to be considered true caviar. Previously, caviar was mainly harvested from freshwater fish in the wild. But due to overfishing, sturgeon populations became dangerously endangered and the value of caviar increased immensely. These days, most of the world's caviar comes from sturgeon farms, and sales are as strictly regulated as ivory tusks. Oh, greetings! Welcome to another episode of Bazaar. In this edition, we will explore the vast fishing market of Iran with a special focus on the inland aquaculture industry. We will also take a closer look at how this business has contributed to the economy. The main star of the show is one of Iran's world-famous and expensive fish products, caviar. Time to go fishing through today's Bazaar. In order to grasp just how this industry works, we decided to visit a caviar production farm. We went to Bazaar, a city in Iran's mostly dry and landlocked province of Khorasan-Razavi. Bazaar is one of Iran's aquacultural hubs and the 7th largest producer of fish and fish products in the country. This caviar-producing company is part of the agriculture cooperative of the province of Khorasan-Razavi. Its facilities are spread across a large area to house its many divisions of fish cultivation. But how does it make precious caviar? Let's start from the beginning here. The young fish are purchased from other nurseries. Many farms also cultivate a small amount of these prehistoric fish inside their own nursery facilities.
این مجموعه رو 3 سالی هست راه اندازی کردیم به همت برادرانمون و توی این مجموعه 24 واحد سخت هستش که بچه‌ماهی از بچه‌ماهی شروع بچه‌ماهی خاویاری هستش تا پرواری که به گوشت برسه اینا و خدمت هست 1 سالیه که مستقیم اومدیم تو خط تولید پرورش ماهی خاویاری. قبل از این مجموعه تو مجموعه تولید قزلالا ماهی قزلالا بود، الان پرورش خاویاره.
پرورش خاویار رو هنوز حدوداً 8 ساله ماهیامون 8 ساله که هنگرمی بود آوردم الان حدوداً هولوش 40 کیلو داره که 2 سال دیگه طول بکشه که به خاویاری برسه ان شاء الله تعالی.
After several months, the fish are transferred to larger tanks. The containers have continuously circulating water that provides oxygen and removes harmful carbon dioxide produced by the fish. Solid waste is removed from the tanks by filtration systems. Also, beneficial bacteria are introduced to the tanks, which play a big role in keeping the water clean.
در حقیقت این استخر یک بهره‌وری به حساب میاد برای استفاده از منابع آبی که در بخش کشاورزی استفاده میشه که تأثیر مثبتی که میگذاره با غنی کردن آب کشاورزی علاوه بر این که ایجاد اشتغال میکنه و درآمد خوبی هم نصیب تولید کننده ها و پرورش دهنده ها میکنه، در کیفیت محصولات کشاورزی و همچنین مقدار محصولات تأثیر مثبتی داره.
Patience is a must in cultivating caviar-producing fish. It takes 10 years for a sturgeon to mature for egg harvest. The eggs can account for at least 15% of the weight of the fish. At this stage, the creature is at least a meter in length. Caviar comes in range of colors from red and gold all the way to the extremely valuable black caviar. Wow, don't I fancy some right now? Funny enough, There is no visual way to determine if a fish is male or female just by looking at it. So, companies such as this one use ultrasound to verify the gender. When the time is right, the fish are purged in clean water tanks. This step is important to remove off flavors. It is then sedated for extraction. Most fish farms will not kill the fish during extraction. The mothers can be harvested up to 6 times in their lifespan. Eggs are then weighed and carefully salted. The caviar undergoes a period of therapy, and after certain processes, it is then ready for packaging. The process of producing caviar is very delicate and requires a lot of precision. If something goes wrong in any stage of the fish growth, it could be devastating when it comes to harvest time. So generally, all processes are closely monitored, including the health of the fish. Doing so guarantees that the resulting caviar maintains the highest quality. It might be interesting to know that this company uses multiple species of sturgeon to make its caviar. Each species produces different colors of valuable eggs.
دو گونه در این خانواده معمولاً در استخوان پرورش داده میشن. یک گونه فیلمایی هست و گونه بعدی گونه ماهی سیبری. با توجه به اینکه شرایط اقلیمی و همچنین خصوصیات آبی این مرکز برای پرورش ماهی خاویاری مناسب بود، این گونه در اینجا انتخاب شد و پرورش داده میشه.
The company is one of 4 sturgeon farms in Khorasan Razavi. These units have a nominal production capacity of around 3,000 fish in 2 categories of nursery and caviar productions.
ما 5 تا مزرعه ماهیان خاویار داریم با تولید اسمی 30 تن گوشت و 1.5 تن خاویار. سال قبل اردیبهشت سال 99 اولین سالی بود که ماهیان خاویار ما به باردهی رسید و با توجه به اینکه کشاورز ما لینک ارتباطی با صادرات نداشت، محصولاتش رو دادن به سمت مازندران برای فروش و گوشتش هم خب روانه بازار شد.
Caviar must meet all the national food standards in order to be released into the market. The cooperative also follows strict international standards for caviar because its main goal is to export its products.
کل ماهیامون که یک مقدار قزل هم داریم اینجا حدوداً 14,000 با خاویارا، حدوداً نزدیک 1000 تاش 2 سال دیگه انشالله به خاویاری میرسه و حدوداً 6 خانوار اینجا مشغول به کارن که در خدمتشون هستیم.
قبولش سخته که شهرستانی که 100% اقلیمش خشکه، میانگین بارندگیش 180 میلیمتر در بهترین شرایط و تمام سطح زیرکشش از منابع آبی زیرزمینی و قسمتش هم از قنوات داره پوشش میده، بیاد بحث شیلات مطرح کنه تو سنوات گذشته و در کمتر از 15 سال انقدر توسعه پیدا کنه که 35% شیلات و ماهیان آبزیان گرمابی و سردابی استان رو تولید کنه. ما کل تولید استان حدود 13,000 تن هستش که 3,200 تنش فقط مال سبزوار هستش.
Marine biologists and aquatic technicians are among the highly specialized staff on this company's employee priority. This booming industry employs somewhere around 230,000 people nationwide. Usually, fish food can be domestically purchased, but some companies prefer to make their own protein pellets, which reduces costs.
بزرگترین طرح ملی استفاده از آبهای شور برای پرورش خاویار تو شهرستان سبز استارت خورده و امیدواریم که انشالله در 31/4 یعنی پایان برج 4400 3 تا مزرعه دیگه به مزارع ما اضافه بشه و ظرفیت تولید ما برسه به 60 تن واقعی و 3 تن خاویار. ناگفته نمونه که 95% تولید ماهیان خاویار استان در اختیار سبزوار هستش.
The success of companies such as this one hasn't been without numerous challenges and obstacles.
اینی که میگن تحریم و اینی که میگن نمیشه، کار نشد نداره. تحریم که نمیشه که مثلا اون کسانی که ما را تحریم میکنن زور و بازوی ما را تحریم نمیتونن بکنن. ما اینجا از صفر تو کویر شروع کردیم، به لطف الهی هر کاری که رو شروع کردم به اتمام رسوندم.
There are around 460 fishery units in Khorasan Razavi province that produce around 11,000 tons of aquaculture products. Over 3,000 tons of these products come from Sabzavar alone. Of the 27 million tons of fish produced in the country, around 7 million tons come from this particular area. But Khorasan Razavi isn't the only area with high fish production.
الان در حال حاضر در شهرستان سبزوار از 630 حلقه چای کشاورزی 25%ش یعنی 160 واحد کار پرورش ماهی را انجام میدن. البته بیشتر مراکز پرورش ماهی سردابی یا قزلالا رو دارن، ولی ما 5 مرکز پرورش ماهی خاویاری هم داریم که در سال 1399 ماحصل تولیدات این مراکز 3000 تن گوشت سفید یا غذای سلامتی بود که
The Caspian Sea is one of the key areas with high production of fish, particularly caviar. Figures from Iran's fisheries organization showed that in 2020, Iran's share of fishery from the Caspian Sea was 42,000 tons. This constituted over 5% of the whole country's fishery products. The remaining 94% comes from the Oman Sea and Persian Gulf. 6 tons of aquaculture caviar and nearly 3 tons of caviar fish meat were produced in Iran in 2020. One might like to know that out of the country's 31 provinces, around 22 provinces have active sturgeon breeding units. Iran's fishery organization says it wants to increase output of 100 tons of caviar by the year 2025. Based on the 6th 5-year development plan ending in 2021, Iran should produce up to 1.5 million tons of aquaculture products. But the country was ahead of its schedule when its aquaculture production easily reached 1.2 million tons in 2020. Last year, Iran's fishery export was nearly 150,000 tons, which was valued at around $540 million. One of the reasons for the rise in caviar productions in fish farms is overfishing in the Caspian Sea. This body of water is native to some of the most expensive caviar-producing sturgeon. These fish were harvested and discarded almost to the brink of extinction. That's terrible. For this reason, a sturgeon fishing ban was set in place in 2011 by Iran and other Caspian littoral states. Iran's role as a responsible manager of its sturgeon stocks deserves much more recognition. The country has some of the harshest laws on poaching the fish. Iranian authorities have sought to persuade other countries in the region to implement similar regulations to protect the sturgeon. Iran's management of its stocks are recognized by the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. Sanctions on Iran are one of the main reasons why much of Iranian production is now being sold in the Middle East and specifically to the Arab countries in the Persian Gulf. Well, I shall take a short break and hopefully find some delicious caviar on toast somewhere. In the meantime, my good friend and colleague will take over on the field. It's all yours.
Cryogenic vessels, a term we generally come across in science fiction films, space explorations and made-up stories about frozen celebrities. Well, today we're not going to spin you a long tale. We are here to tell you how these containers contribute to the safe and efficient handling and storage of gases that have been supercooled and reduced to their liquefied states.
To keep gases in their liquid phase, cryogenic tanks need to be thermally insulated, typically with a vacuum jacket, and designed and manufactured to a high specification following international design codes. So, that's something that can easily be made. If you would, please give me a little bit of a background to what the company actually is and does and when it started.
شرکت پیشران زمهریر آسمان سال 1392 تأسیس شده، ولی کارهای پژوهشی روی تکنولوژی کرایوژنیک از سال 87 تقریبا شروع شد. این کار دانش بنیان 94 به ثمر رسید تا سال 97 نقطه سر به سر خودش رو طی کرد و الان که خدمت شما هستیم با یه فضایی حدود بالاتر از 50,000 متر مربع و بیش از 300 نفر پرسنل اجرایی مستقیم بزرگترین تولید کننده این مخازن های تک توی غرب آسیا هستیم.
The field of cryogenics advanced during the Second World War when scientists found that metals frozen to low temperatures showed more resistance to wear. And now liquefied gases are used in a wide range of applications including metal processing, medical technology, electronics, water treatment, energy generation, and the food industry. Cryogenics is considered to be a branch of physics that deals with extremely low temperatures, temperatures below negative 238 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 150 degrees Celsius. Now, as you can imagine, in these extreme conditions, research and development plays a key role. From the choice of tank component materials and optimum design to manufacturing, and finally thermomechanical and high pressure testing.
All of these storage units, depending on their size, are made of different plates that are welded together. So if you want a spherical one, you weld the two hemispheres together, and if you want a cylindrical one, you have a cylindrical shell with two hemispherical caps. Please continue.
As we saw in the yard, the manufacturing area, from one of your first models, there's a huge difference between that one and the ones you're manufacturing now. Could you tell me why did you decide to change that design?
روش تولید مخازن به اصطلاح فنیش به دو ترتیب هست. یکی روش تولید با الیپتیکال هد و همیسفریکال هد. ما از روشی به اسم اکسپلوژن فورمینگ که روش فرمدهی انفجاری هست عدسی های همیسفریکالمون رو تولید میکنیم. چون از این روش استفاده میکنیم خیلی از مبانی طراحیمون متفاوت هست با روش های قبلی، بهای تمام شده کاهش پیدا میکنه، کیفیت محصول و هیت ترانسفری که توی این مخازن بسیار با اهمیت هست کاهش پیدا میکنه و از نظر جلوه بصری هم مخزن شرایط خیلی زیباتر و بهتری پیدا میکنه.
Explosive forming allows large shaped parts to be formed without an investment in machine tools and die sets, both of which are costly and time-consuming.
Okay, so that was exciting. I had sanded wood before, but I'd never done something like this on metal. So where I'm standing is actually the outer shell of one of the containers or vessels. These containers have two shells, an inner shell and an outer shell, to help vacuum the air between them and keep the liquefied gas cool throughout. I'm going to do it again.
That is to say that the vacuum-insulated double-wall tanks consist of two concentric vessels, an austenitic steel inner tank and an outer jacket in carbon steel with an anti-corrosion primer and a special environmentally friendly top coat. the covering vacuum-insulated jacket must be devised for piping hoses as well. Is there anything you'd like to add?
چیزی که برای من به عنوان یه درس مونده توی این فرایند اینه که ما اگر بتونیم جوینت های خوبی برای رشد و توسعه خودمون پیدا بکنیم میتونه توی افق چشم انداز ما اثرهای بسیار مهمی داشته باشه. ما برنامه صادراتی منسجمی تدوین کردیم، جوینت هایی خارج کشور داریم و برنامه تأسیس دفتر توی یک یا چند تا کشورهای اطراف ایران رو برای سال 1400 داریم.
Taking into account current requirements in regulation and safety when it comes to high-tech pressure tanks, what happens to the aftercare? When it comes to such technologies, usually the aftercare is more important. So if, for example, a foreign country, a European country, purchases one of your vessels, and then they have a problem, hopefully not, that will never happen, but if they do, how can you help them?
مخازن کریوژنیک کلاً محصولی هست که اصطلاحاً ما بهش میگیم یک محصول یک بار مصرف ولی با طول عمر نزدیک به 40 سال. به خاطر همین این مخازن خاصی هست که نیاز به تعمیر و نگهداری مداوم نداره، ولی به هر ترتیب چون مخازن های تکیه نیاز به آموزش و پشتیبانی داره، هر کشوری که ما این محصولات رو ارسال میکنیم حتما تیم پشتیبان اونجا پیش بینی میکنه.
From vessels with the capacity of 1 ton to 10 tons to 30 tons, no matter what the customer's needs may be, Zamharir will design, manufacture and deliver.
And who knows, maybe in a couple of decades we will be able to see human hibernation cryotanks manufactured in Iran.
Thank you again for another awesome adventure. Now, let's dive right into some of the news and trends in Iran's fishing industries. Iran's Department of Environment has banned the practice of trawling in the Persian Gulf due to devastating effects on delicate ecosystems. The chief of Iran's Department of Environment, Ahmad Lahijanzadeh, announced the total ban of this fishing method. This fishing technique generates high income in the short term. Lahijanzadeh says trawling causes irreparable damage and loss of fishermen jobs in the long run. Trawling is a method of fishing that involves pulling a fishing net through water. This fishing method has raised concerns from environmentalists because it lacks selectivity. The nets collect tons of unwanted fish, coral, and other sea life while damaging biodiversity. Fishing is no doubt an important industry in Iran, but moving fish around the country is also an equally essential part of infrastructure which Iran plans on further developing. Iran's Fisheries Organization announced that the government has allocated over $11 million for the construction of new fishing ports. These ports are mainly along the country's southern coasts. 15 of these ports are already under construction. The Fisheries Organization estimates the southern coastline to be about 5,800 kilometers, with around 120 unloading centers. With massive investments rolling in, I am proud to tell you all that the construction of Iran's largest super-intensive fish farm began in southern Khuzestan province. It is to be constructed on a 50-hectare plot of land. The farm will produce 10,000 tons of seafood per year when completed. The project contains pools, fish feed production factories, processing and packaging lines, warehouse storage, and transportation facilities. The governor of Khuzestan province, Gholamreza Shariati, said the first phase of this project will be launched in the next 8 months. And that's the catch of the day. Remember to get in touch with us with all your thoughts and ideas by sending them to our email. That's bazarptv@presstv.com. I've been Samson Sees. sees you in the next Bazaar.